What's up, everybody? I actually just felt like doing a random video. Today is July 23rd, 2019, which is actually the 20th anniversary of Woodstock 99. Uh, Pretty much everyone that knows me, I have mentioned before that I actually attended Woodstock 99. I was 15 years old. But I just thought it would be cool since it's the 20th anniversary. Just why not do a video of my experience? Because I've always had it written down on a SD card, had it saved as a file, and that was the only way I could talk about my experience. Well, to remember it, it was just have it like that and just randomly talk about it. But I thought it would be cool just to do a video. Hopefully, it won't be too long. Um, I'll try to keep it at least 20 minutes or so, maybe 25 if it goes beyond that point, depending on what day that I'm talking about. But I don't think it'll go further than that. I might do a two-parter. But anyways, I got some notes all written down just so I memorize and remember some stuff to talk about. So, yeah. Woodstock 99 was actually at Griffiths Air Force Base, what used to be Griffiths Air Force Base. They renamed it. I think it was like Griffiths Park. But I used to live there back in the 80s at Griffiths Air Force Base, 2046A North Titan Circle. Went to school there at Francis Bellamy, just right outside of the base. So at that time in 99, we were living up in Abilene at Dice Air Force Base, and my parents had talked about me and my sisters, our family, going back to New York for the summer for a couple weeks or so to visit some friends that we knew when we lived at Griffiths Air Force Base. So I remember around that time finding out about Woodstock 99 going on, because when we lived there, at Griffiths from the 80s to 94, when the base was being closed, we were there for Woodstock 94. Of course, I was only 10. Couldn't go to that, but I remember listening to it on the radio, the live broadcast, and actually recording some on cassette tapes. And of course, MTV was airing the concert. Of course, it was all edited and everything because of the nudity and the language and all that, but they were airing the concert. So I remember that going on. So hearing about Woodstock 99 going on, coincidentally enough, the time that we were going to New York to visit friends, I just remember bugging the hell out of my parents wanting to go. And of course, they always told me no. I remember just bugging and bugging, before the trip, on the way up there, and then the friend's house that we were staying at, just if I could go. And of course, it was no. I remember asking, well, can I at least can we get it on pay-per-view? It's like $50 for all 3 days. Same thing, no. So I just gave up. I was like, all right, we're here on vacation, might as well enjoy it and everything. And so at our friend's house that we were at, Lucy, the Colognes, but my dad came in. I think I was on the computer just reading up on what bands were going to be finalized there. And so he came in, hands me an envelope, and says, Lucy wants you to have this. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I opened up the envelope, and inside was a ticket to Woodstock 99. And I was super excited, couldn't believe that I was going. I still have the pamphlet thing that came with it, that came with the tickets. Tells you the bands that are all playing, just the info, when the dates. So it was pretty much everything was going to start at noon on Friday, and then, actually on every day, everything started at noon. So July 23rd, 24th, and 25th, those were the 3 days of the concert. But yeah, then of course I had the map of the whole layout of the place, which I'll get back to that later on in my story. Having this too, it was actually talking about the bands on the inside, just all the stuff that you could do there. Just talking about how there was a CD and I think a VHS and DVD coming out, which actually didn't get released until October or so, and some of the sponsors from Woodstock 99. But yeah, in there it was just talking about some of the bands, the person that painted the stage. Actually, the stage is, since there was the east stage and the west stage, and each were different. But again, there's more of it talking about the bands and everything that were going to be there. And of course, this one had the map of the layout too. But that was pretty cool that it came with that. And then these tickets were not mine. Mine were actually in a photo album that I had. But we actually had a crate that ended up being lost when we moved from Germany back to Texas. But these I ended up finding at a Dunkin' Donuts. I think it was the last day on Sunday night, which I'll get into later on in the video. But yeah, these were the tickets from Woodstock 99. These you had to keep on with you because they give you a wristband, and that was the only way that you could get into the site, was you had to have your ticket and you had to have the wristband. If the wristband broke, they could give you a new one as long as you had your ticket. So that was pretty much all I remember doing, just bugging my parents, got the ticket, we went over to a friend's house of ours, the Ford family. I remember telling them that I was going to Woodstock. They were all excited. I think my friend Charles was a little jealous, like, what the fuck? Like, this kid's 15 years old, he's going to Woodstock, So, but I remember we ended up bike riding around, him and one of his friends, and just reminiscing about how we grew up together and everything. And we were trying to get onto Griffiths just to bike around where our houses used to be, because I couldn't remember if they were still there or if they already got demolished since the base was closed, but they were using it for something else though. But security wouldn't let us go in, so we just ended up bike riding around the Mohawk Plaza. I believe that's where I bought a t-shirt, a Woodstock 99 shirt. It's not this one. This one I ended up getting later. But I had a tie-dye shirt, and that shirt I wore pretty much any time that I could. Especially in 99 after that event, because I was a freshman later that year, starting school. And so, yeah, I literally wore that shirt till it had holes in it. It was just ridiculous. But yeah, I remember buying a shirt, and that was it about the Mohawk Gate. Just the line to go into Griffiths Air Force. We'll still call it Griffiths Air Force Base because that's what it will always be to me. But the line going to Woodstock at Griffiths Air Force Base onto the flight line was just insane. All of the cars, I saw a lot of license plates from so many different states that the line was just moving long. Well, not moving long, just wasn't moving because it was so long that people were actually getting on top of the cars, just chilling, just just relaxing because the line wasn't moving. And so that was just pretty cool, just seeing all of that happen. And so that was pretty much on Thursday. Like I said, nothing was happening. I was going with our friend, their daughter, Barbara, and then we were staying at a friend's of theirs because their daughter was going, her boyfriend, and then her boyfriend's sister was going. So it was like us five were all going to Woodstock. So that was the group that we were with. So we ended up staying there Thursday night. I remember just not being able to sleep at all because I was just too excited. 15 years old going to Woodstock. I was like, holy crap. So I remember we ended up waking up like around 10 or 11 or so, and had some breakfast. I remember trying to eat some cereal and I just couldn't. I was too nervous going to a big event like that. I just made sure I had my ticket, my money, my camera, which I had on a string, which was around my neck. So I always made sure I had that. And of course I wore my Woodstock shirt. And once we all got ready, we ended up walking to the Mohawk Plaza because it wasn't that far from where they lived at. So once we walked there, there's just loads and loads of people because that's where one of the bus pickups is at that you could ride to go to Woodstock. And once we got there, I remember over by Burger King, there were a couple guys there, and they were selling the wristbands that you get. And I think he had his ticket in his back pocket, and someone ended up pickpocketing him of his ticket because he went to go reach in the back. and he couldn't find his ticket. And so he was all pissed off that someone stole his ticket. Well, idiot, don't leave your ticket in the back of your pocket. So, let's see. So while we're there in the Mohawk Plaza, to get on the bus actually took us like about an hour or an hour and a half, just because there were so many people. And I only think from the bus that we were waiting for, there was only a couple buses. So it was just hard for them to get everybody on there. So once we finally did get on a bus, I mean, everyone had like ice chests with them, some camping gear. So that's why it was taking a long time for us to finally get on a bus, because of everyone had all their shit with them. Most of the people drove on site and then were camped like that. I guess others were just, well, let's just take the bus there and we'll camp like that instead. So once we finally get to Woodstock, we end up going to the south gate, and that's the main gate, and well, one of the main gates, but that was pretty much the main one. And that's where you could see the wall, the Woodstock wall. I think they said it was like 12 feet high, but only part of the wall had all these like paintings that local artists came by. They had like I think it was like Jimi Hendrix was painted on part of the wall. They had like a peace, love, music equals Woodstock part. Like flowers and birds and hippie stuff. That was all on the wall. It was only on one section of it, but then the rest of the wall just surrounded the whole site. So we finally go pretty much like through security, and they tell us, hey, if you break your wristband, like I said earlier, just show us your ticket, and in the broken wristband, we'll give you a new wristband. So we're finally in. As soon as you walk in, like I said, there was just thousands and thousands and thousands of people. It was just insane to see that many people at an event like that, or just general. It was just crazy. But as soon as you walk in, there was already trash just like all over the place. It wasn't as bad, but it was still noticeable enough just to be like, damn, like just trash everywhere. So we end up walking to what we thought was going to the east stage, because I think we were trying to see, I can't remember who it was at that time, but we ended up walking to the west stage, and Oleander was performing. I have no clue who they were. Excuse me, but from that walk, from the entrance to the west stage was a pretty far walk, because you got to remember it's on a former flight line, and flight lines are fucking massive. I mean, you gotta think it's at least like a couple miles. So from us to walk pretty much in the middle. Here, I'll just show you on the map. Forgot about that. So where we entered was actually right there, and we ended up walking. I know I got my fan on. We ended up walking all the way down here to the west stage. So from up here all the way down right there. But we were pretty much chilling right there in the back, because there was two towers back there that had the speakers. So we ended up just walking right there, thinking it was whoever, but it wasn't. Like I said, it was Oleander. I have no clue, like I said, about their music, but we sat there and chilled for a bit. And once we found out we were at the wrong stage, we ended up walking back, trying to go to the correct stage, which is the east stage. So all the way from right there, all the way over there. On the way over, once we got there, Jamiroquai had just hit the stage, and he had like on this funky hat, whatever, and I think he said something like he was at Woodstock to get high or something. And so he was cool to see perform just for a little bit, and we walked around. Hey, let's see, did a little bit of shopping just to check out the merchandise tents. So I got me some patches. I ended up buying, I think it was like 2 of Primus, Rage Against the Machine. No, it was 2 of Primus, Korn, Limp Bizkit, Jimi Hendrix, and Metallica. Yeah, because I ended up having that on my backpack later on once we finally got home and stuff. So we ended up doing that. We went by to go get food, but I had got asked on Instagram, because I ended up posting like, if you want me to answer a question, ask me something and I'll answer it. So I got asked about the food, how it was overly priced, like did it taste good or whatever. I really didn't eat the food on the first day just because it was that pricey. Like for the like a chicken sandwich, I mean at the time it was pricey. When you think about it now, it's like, all right, it wasn't that bad, but like just like a little like chicken sandwich was like $8 or so. That's all you got. I think the French fries weren't that much. Just give you the bottled water, just like this. Just a regular 20-ounce bottle of water. This was $8 or $10, depending where you went at. But that was how much water was. Now they advertised that they had free water there, but we had no idea where that was at. Like they said, you could bring a container and fill it up with water, but we had no idea. But this is pretty much what started the whole hating about Woodstock, because they were charging $8 or $10 for this bottle of water. So after that, we ended up walking around the East Stage still, and we got attacked by the Mud People. They had returned because they were famously known for Woodstock 94 from all the rain out there. So they made their return at 99, and this is during a heat wave, so there was no rain. And from what I heard, I think they busted open a pipe or something, and that's what created all the mud. But what was weird enough is the mud was created over by where the porta potties were. So that was pretty disgusting. Just thinking about it, it's like, God, I hope this is really mud. And so I remember I actually ended up having a piece of mud thrown at me on my shoulder on my Woodstock shirt. So it got, I guess, blessed by the Woodstock Mud People. So I had a big ass thing of mud right there, and they had like a truck going by. I don't know if it was a water truck or a gas truck, but people started throwing mud at that truck. I actually have pictures of that I'll show at the end of the day one talk. But they were throwing mud at that, and a guy actually got on the back of the trailer and was just posing like that. So people were throwing mud at him and at the truck. It was just crazy just to witness that. So we get over to the East Stage, finally, and stuff. Like I said, after we watched Jamiroquai, and we got into the crowd this time. Well, we wanted to get into the crowd because Barbara, she really loves DMX, and he was one of the performers on the East Stage, and he wasn't performing until later. So that's why we got into the crowd, and we ended up seeing the band live. They were pretty cool. I really loved seeing them because they also performed at the original, well, not at the original, but they performed at Woodstock 94, so it was cool to see them here at 99. And they played for like about an hour or so. They dedicated their last song, Lightning Crashes, to John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife, and I think his sister-in-law, because it was either a couple of days before or a couple of weeks before they had gotten killed in a plane crash. So when they performed Lightning Crashes, they went ahead and dedicated that song to JFK Jr. and his wife and sister-in-law. So we all thought that was pretty cool. So after live, there's like a short intermission or so, and Andy Dick came on the stage to kind of like entertain the crowd. And he's up there, and he ends up singing songs about his dick, pretty much. And near the end of his thing or whatever, he ends up actually flashing his dick to the crowd, and security pretty much rush him off the stage. So everyone's all like, oh, what the hell was that all about? So after him, they announced Sheryl Crow on stage, and she was really cool to see, and she was another artist that performed at Woodstock 94. And same thing, she played for about an hour. I remember I think it was like some of the guys that were near us or whatever, they kept yelling for her to flash her tits, and she's like, what was that? And they're like, show us your tits. She's like, show me your, or like show you my tits. She's like, well, I didn't get paid enough to show my tits at this event. So a lot of people are just laughing and just oohing at it. So after her, Sheryl Crow, that's when DMX was next. But Barbara, she's a short person. I think she's like 5 foot, maybe a little bit taller, but she's not that tall though. She was having a hard time breathing because of how short she is, and also, like I said, it was a heat wave in upstate New York, so it was super hot. So we ended up walking from the middle of the crowd from where we're at, going out, which actually took us a while because nobody was moving out of the way. Everyone was just standing there. It's like, dude, like, get out of the way. We're trying to leave to get out of the crowd. So once we finally do, we end up finding like an ice cream stand and buying some ice cream just to like help us cool down. And over there on the flight line, there was like a little, actually like a little hill. So we ended up sitting on the hill to watch DMX perform, and it was just him and his DJ, and those guys controlled the crowd like no other. It was really awesome to see that, and just the whole energy that they had in for that crowd. And I remember Barbara just being mad because we were so close to the stage, and then we had to leave because she just couldn't breathe, which is understandable, but at least she got to see DMX perform. And so during that time, after DMX was done, that's where John Shear, whoever he is, he's one of the producers of Woodstock. I think he also helped produce 94 and maybe even the original, I'm not sure. But he gets on stage and he's just keeping the crowd entertained, and he was telling people where there were boobies at. So he was like, hey, 3 o'clock, boobies over there. Oh, look over in this direction, more boobies. And then finally they announced the Offspring on stage, and they were really awesome to see. I think during Why Don't You Get a Job, they had like all these bubbles going off in the crowd, so it's just cool to see all these bubbles just floating around. During Pretty Fly for a White Guy, they actually had the kid or the guy from the music video come out and dance on the stage, so that got a huge pop from the crowd, and just seeing him dance on there. And I can't remember what song it was that they finished performing, but they got off the stage and they were saying, ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise for y'all, the Backstreet Boys. And like the whole place just erupted in boos. Like no one wanted to see any boy band shit at that time. And so what they did was they had these 5 dummies, and they all had a face of whatever member. And I think they started even playing like one of their songs, and then Dexter, the lead singer, right? I think that's his name, he came out with a baseball bat and just was pretty much like, fuck you, Backstreet, and ended up just like whacking off their heads with the baseball bat. And then so they continued their set. They finished with Self-Esteem, which was really awesome. I love that song. So once they were done, I think in between the bands, when they were setting up for Korn, we could hear the Roots performing in the background. It was either after the Offspring or after DMX, but we could hear the Roots performing in the background, and they were doing that song You Got Me with Erykah Badu, if I'm pronouncing her last name right. And that was really cool to hear that in the background. There was another thing that I had heard, that ICP, yes, Insane Clown Posse, was there. They were over on the West stage. That when they were performing, they had 2 guys dressed up as 2 fake Rome police cops, and they're saying, hey, you guys are being too rowdy, we need you to shut the show down. And so they ended up doing like some wrestling moves off of like a ladder onto like tables or something. And I just remember they were showing it on the screens or something like that, and we're like, what the fuck's going on? But once they actually were about to get on stage, the sun was setting, everything was getting all, I think it was already dark by the time that they were on the stage. And they came out, well, they ended up doing the song Blind. And once the drummer, David, once you hear him doing that, that part of the song, it was literally from where we were sitting in the same spot. It looked like herds of just people like rushing to the stage. It looked like herds of cows were just like let loose, or herds of goats just were let loose, and they were just rushing towards the east stage once Korn started performing. And it was just insane. Like, they performed so amazing. Like, I had heard some of their music because that's when Follow the Leader came out, so I was only familiar with songs off of that album. But it was just pretty cool to see them perform. So we only got to see like maybe 75% of their set because we had to be back at the house at a certain time, which sucked because Bush was performing right after Korn. So whatever we did get to see was amazing and awesome. But I remember the girlfriend's mom wanted us to call her so she could pick us up at the Mohawk Plaza there by Burger King. But at night, we could not find any payphones anywhere. It's like they just disappeared. We just could not find where the hell they were. And so we ended up riding the bus back to the Mohawk Plaza, and then we called from the Burger King there, like, hey, we're at the Burger King. And I think she kind of got upset. We're like, sorry, like, we couldn't see shit at the site. It was just too dark. Because one, again, it's on the flight line, and they just didn't, I guess, really have that good of lighting set up where the payphones were. But once we got back to the house, we were all out on the back porch just talking about the day and everything, and we could actually hear Bush performing. And some of the songs I remember hearing were Greedy Fly, Come Back Down, Glycerine, and The One I Love. And I think they opened with Machine Head, which is pretty awesome. But I remember just being a little mad because I was like, shit, it's like I didn't have a chance to see Bush and had to go back to the house. But yeah, so this video is getting long, so I am going to do another two-parter since I didn't think I was going to speak this much. But so that was one of the pictures I had taken there from the Burger King. I just thought it was cool. I said, welcome Woodstock 99. I don't know if everything was 99 cents, but you think that would be smart. But during that weekend at night, for some dumbass reason, like McDonald's was closed. Like they didn't stay open at night. Burger King, I think, was 24/7. Dunkin' Donuts was 24/7. I'm trying to remember what other place was there in the Mohawk Plaza, but they all stayed open, and McDonald's was like, nah, we're just gonna stay closed. So that's one of the pictures I had taken. That's the east stage. And I think we are just right outside of the south gate to go in where we got our wristband. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. But as you can tell, that is definitely a walk. So walking from there, from the west stage, like I said, it's on a flight line, so it's pretty long. But that is it's one of the hangars where they had the emerging artists stage. And I think that's where they had the night rave where Fatboy Slim performed, and I think even Moby performed there too. But that's just some of the crowd. I wish, like I said, most of my pictures got lost, but luckily I still had the film from it, and I was able to get the pictures printed out. A couple years ago. I was happy I still had the negatives, or the film negatives. But that is the water tank or whatever it is where people were throwing mud, and then at the guy so as you can see it says Griffith Energy. I have no idea what that is, but whether it's fuel, water, or something though. But they're all throwing the mud at him. This I believe was during probably live, just a random crowd surfer just taking pictures of whatever. And you could just, I think what had happened was my camera actually ended up opening, so it kind of got to the negatives of the film, and I was able to still take some pictures, and some were still able to get printed out. But that's the center tower. I think during live or Sheryl Crow, we ended up getting pushed against that center tower just because everyone was just moshing and just doing whatever. Like, dude, it's live, it's Sheryl Crow. What the hell are you moshing to them for? But that's you can see as close that we got to the stage. That's one of my favorite pics. I just wish I didn't open up my camera or had it open up on accident. And then this was actually, I believe this was after the Offspring, so you could already tell that the sun is coming down. So that's part of the stage right there, and you can see a couple of the screens that you could watch the bands from. And then that, I know it's hard to see because of the glare, but that's part of Korn. That was right before when Korn was about to come on stage. And it was just cool just to see them perform and hear them perform. So we are at the 30-minute mark of the video. I'm going to go ahead and end the video here and start a new video for day 2. And hopefully day 3, do that in the same video. And I'll show more pictures with that. This is actually my original papers that I had with me of the bands that were performing on what stage. I honestly don't remember what stained on here. It could be blood from when I had a bloody nose during Limp Bizkit. It could be coffee, soda, something. I don't fucking know. But on Friday though, on the East stage, they had James Brown. He was actually unannounced and ended up surprising the crowd. Perform. Sugar Ray was supposed to perform, but he ended up getting sick. I think he had like a stomach virus or something, so he had to pull out from playing. Jamiroquai, whom we saw. And then live, Sheryl Crow, DMX, The Offspring, Korn, and then the night ended with Bush. On the West stage, they had Oleander, Mo, the Umbilical Brothers, Lit, Buckcherry, The Roots, Insane Clown Posse, and George Clinton and his funky bunch ended up closing out the West stage on Friday night. And then they had like an all-night rave thing that was going on too. So that's day 1 of Woodstock. Like I said, once we got home, we could hear Bush on the back porch. Yeah. I don't remember that much other than us just going back to the house, just chilling. Be like, all right, we got day 2. All I remember, one thing for sure though, is everybody on day 1 kept talking about day 2, because day 2 on the East stage was Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, and Metallica in that order on the same stage. And everybody was just fucking lit up for it. They just could not wait to see that. Like, that was just an epic lineup right there, just those 3 bands. So I remember just meeting some people, talking to them Friday, and then being like, dude, I can't wait for fucking Saturday night. It's like, hell yeah, to see those bands perform. But yeah, hope you enjoyed day 1, and I shall get ready and tell you about day 2. So thank you.